All right. Matthew chapter 20, and verse 29. And as they departed from Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold, two blind men sitting by the wayside, when they heard that Yeshua passed by, cried out, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. And the multitude rebuked them, because they should hold their peace. But they cried the more, saying, Have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. And Yeshua stood still, and called them, and said, What will you that I shall do unto you? They said unto him, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. So Yeshua had compassion on them, touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. There's a story of a man who walks into a dentist's office and says, Excuse me, can you help me? I think I'm a moth. The dentist replied, You don't need a dentist. You need a psychiatrist. His office is just down the hall. Yes, I know, says the man. So why did you come here? Asked the dentist. The light was on. He thinks he's a moth. The light's on. I know that's a dumb joke, but it serves to illustrate something I want to explain. The man had a problem. He thought he was a moth. He was seeking help, but in the process of seeking that help, he got distracted. The light was on, and it drew him away from the place where he might actually get help. In Matthew 20, Yeshua is entering his final week of his ministry. He's on his way to Jerusalem and will soon be betrayed, arrested, and crucified. The crowds will clamor for his blood and cry, Kill him! Kill him! But as of now, the crowds still love him. They line the streets and clamor for his attention. They've come to believe that this Yeshua is the hope of Israel. This Yeshua is the Messiah. He's the Son of David. He's the promised King of Israel. Everyone is speculating that he will soon claim his crown, throw off the yoke of the hated Romans, and restore Israel to its former glory. But amongst the crowd are two blind men. Everyone knows them. I mean, they're always sitting by the roadside begging for alms. They cry out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us. And the crowd is irritated. This isn't what they think Yeshua is all about. Yeshua is too important to be bothered by rabble like this. But Yeshua stops and he asks these blind men, What do you want me to do for you? Now this is an unusual question for two reasons. First, this is the only time in the Gospels we find Yeshua asking anyone what they need done. And second, you would think it would be obvious what these men needed. They're blind. Even if Yeshua couldn't have looked into their eyes and seen the cloudiness that's often there in the eyes of blind, or watched them as they grope about in the ways blind men do, this is Yeshua. He doesn't need anyone to tell him that these men were blind. He's the Son of Yahweh. He knows these things. So why ask the question? It seems obvious to me that he didn't ask the question for his own benefit, as if he didn't know what they needed in their lives. So I've come to believe that Yeshua asked the question for the benefit of the others who were there that day. First, I believe Yeshua asked this question for the benefit of the crowds. This crowd is obviously not into helping blind people. Blind people are a nuisance. They were a hindrance. They were a distraction to what Yeshua's real purpose ought to be. And what would that real purpose be? Meeting their needs, meeting their kingdom. When it becomes obvious a few days later that this wasn't what Yeshua had in mind, the crowds turned their backs on him. And they cried out for his blood. And so it was intriguing that Yeshua didn't ask the crowds what he could do for them. He asked the men. He asked the blind man, "What can I do for you?" There are times when the church forgets why it exists. There are times when people forget that what Yeshua saved them for. They begin to think church is all about them. They think their relationship with Yeshua is totally focused on their needs and their agenda. They are literally blind to what their real needs are. And so Yeshua can't really help them. It's so easy living in this present world to get distracted by the wrong things. Kind of like the man who thought he was a moth. He became distracted by a light bulb. So also, we can be distracted by bright things like wealth, success, excitement. James wrote to the church of his day, warning them against that danger. James chapter 2, verse 2. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring in goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and you have respect to him that wears the gay clothing, and say unto him, Sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, Stand thou there, or sit here under my footstool. Are you not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? Hearken, my beloved brethren, has not Yahweh chosen the poor of this world rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom which he has promised to them that love him? The folks in James's church had gotten distracted by the potential of wealthy people. Now, wealth isn't bad, and having money isn't an evil thing. But if we allow earthly attractions like wealth and success and excitement to distract us, it will be hard for Yeshua to help us accomplish his goal in our lives. Now, when we get used to the idea that Yeshua should build up our kingdom rather than his, there's all kinds of things that can distract us from Yeshua's priorities in our lives. I've seen people who were willing to attend churches where they knew the doctrine was questionable, but they went because they wanted to go to an exciting place, an exciting church. I've seen people abandon their families because they wanted a more satisfying mate. I've seen people take jobs where they knew they would be asked to do things that would undermine their relationship with Yahweh. But they wanted the success that job would supply. And almost without exception, those who seek out those kinds of light bulbs in their lives will often justify it by saying it was Yahweh's will that they go to the questionable church. It was Yahweh's will that they leave their families or take the job that undermines their beliefs. They got distracted because their relationship with Yeshua was all about their kingdom, not his. So I believe Yeshua asked that question, what would you have me do for you? For the benefit of the crowd. But I also believe he asked the question because it was a question the blind men needed to answer. Any good counselor will tell you that one of the best questions he can ask people who come for counseling is this: why are you here? Or what do you want me to do for you in this counseling session? Now, why would a counselor ask that question? Because the people in his office may not know what they want done. All they know is that they have a problem and this guy's supposed to be able to fix problems. But that they may not really know what they really want done. And so the counselor, if he doesn't clarify the issue, may end up trying to fix something they don't want fixed. Or he may try to fix their problem in a way they won't accept. Or they won't cooperate. And so the wise counselor has to define what this person really wants done. I don't know what these blind men expected of Yeshua when they first cried out for mercy. But I do know that when they did ask passerbyers for mercy, they were usually seeking alms. People passed by and it was a hit or miss as to whether mercy was to be found. Many people would give them money, maybe bread, maybe all too often nothing. A lifetime of that begging kind of ingrained itself into you until you get to the point where whenever there's a crowd, you cry out, "Have mercy on me." They're not sure anyone will pay attention to them this time. They've been ignored before. There's absolutely no reason Yeshua or anyone else would pay attention to them now. So it must have come to something of a shock when Yeshua stopped. And then he asked them, "What would you have me do for you?" I don't think they really expected him to do anything like this. They might have expected a coin or a piece of bread, or perhaps just a little attention from the Son of David. But now, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, has personally asked them what they'd like. They suddenly realize they can ask him for whatever they want, and he just might give it. And so with a boldness born of desperation, they cry out, "Lord, we want our sight." Matthew 20, verse 33, they say unto him, "Lord, that our eyes may be open." So Yeshua had compassion on them, touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. And my point is this: there are believers who receive nothing from Yeshua because they don't ask. That's what James said in James chapter 4, verse 2. You lust and have not. You kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you have not, because you ask not. You ask and receive not, because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lust. And what is James saying? He's saying that as believers, we can get distracted. We have a need. We have a problem. But when we go to try to solve that problem or meet that need, we can often end up seeking our answers in the wrong places. It's as if there's bright earthly light that catches our attention. And like a moth, we're drawn to that light. And that solution, because that's what moths do. As believers, we find ourselves in all kinds of frustrating situations that we can't easily solve. So what do? We do what all moths, human beings, do. We get upset, we get angry, we get quarrelsome, and we seek to resolve our problems by force or by manipulation. And James says, wrong light bulb. You do not have because you do not ask Yahweh. We run into problems in our lives because we try to solve the problems all by our lonesome. It's as if we didn't hear the still small voice of Yeshua as he stoops down to you and asks, what would you have me do for you? One of the most assuring verses in the Bible is Romans 8:32, which says, he that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? What this verse is saying is this: what would you have me do for you? I gave my son for you. If I would be willing to sacrifice my son for your salvation, don't you think I'd give you practically anything that you might need? It's as if the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, has personally asked you what you would like. But too often, we ignore that offer, that promise, because we're afraid of what would happen in our lives if we actually took him up upon it. People are afraid of the consequences of obeying Yahweh. The choices they have to make are hard ones. Who wants to be made fun of? You believe in that? Romans 8:28. There Yahweh assures us that all things work together for good to them that love Yahweh, and to them who are the called according to his purpose. In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. John 16, verse 33. These things have I spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation. But be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. 1 John 4, verse 4. You are of Yahweh, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. That what we find was true of the blind men in this story. Once we know the decisions we needed to make, we're told. And they got up. And they followed him. Yahweh bless.